Hey, good morning. It's a privilege to serve as an elder here at Quad City. It's also an honor to be invited to share the message this morning. I'm encouraged to be here, and I am encouraged to be a part of this church. And I want to share with you just one of many of the reasons that I'm so encouraged to be a part of a church that is growing in the grace of giving. So we'll take a minute and watch this video.
I'm Gina Lloyd with Mayor Unified School District. I'm the McKinney-Vento Homeless Liaison and the Family Resource Center Specialist.
My name is Alex Daniels, and I am one of the co-founders and managers of the Yavapai County Food Neighbors Project for Chino Valley.
Hi, I'm Molly and Greg Duran, and we're coordinators at Hungry Kids for Humboldt Education Foundation, which is the foundation for Humboldt School District.
We will be sending these out. We have 4 more weeks of school left. They will be going out every Thursday to our Hungry Kids program that provides meals for our hungry kids over the weekend.
Quad Cities, reached out to us, and they're graciously providing us a ton of, mac and cheese and some oatmeal also from their main church. And we're going to offer it up to our families and their students over the summer break, because they're going a long time, without, free, meals and stuff from the school district. So they'll be able to kind of supplement, give them, some extra food throughout the summer.
We're in Globe, Arizona, about to give hundreds of boxes of food to ARM, Arizona Reservation Ministries. It's an amazing way our church can support those in need, providing a whole bunch of food to Apache Nation, families in need. It's awesome.
Every Friday, we send home bags of food for children that need food so they can have food over the weekend and come to school ready to learn. Thank you so much to the Quad City churches for giving us this wonderful food for the kids, and it will all be used.
I just want to say thank you to everybody involved. It is greatly appreciated.
So, of the Chino Valley Unified School District and Chino Valley, Green Bag Food Neighbors projects, we want to thank, Quad Cities Church for their generous donation of time, volunteers, and of food.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, isn't it encouraging to be a part of a church that's so invested in making a difference in our community and beyond? I'm grateful to lead and serve here as an elder in a church that's committed to growing in the grace of giving. I'm also encouraged as the leader of one of our mission partners, UCYC, down the road, where we send all of our kids to camp. And maybe, most importantly, I'm just grateful as a father, where my half a dozen kids are invested in personally here in this church, in this community. So just the fact that we're so intentionally generous, investing in the next generation. And I know that you probably share my gratitude, because in my experience, generosity flows out of gratitude. And so generous people are grateful people. I'm encouraged to be a part of a church that is so grateful to be on mission to make a difference in our community and around the world. I want you to imagine with me for a moment this morning. Imagine you picked the best possible day to come to Quad City, because today I'm passing out superpowers. I wonder which superpower you would choose. Would you choose flight, right? Like the ability to just pick up and go from A to B without having to deal with any crazy drivers, Not that we've got any of those in our community. Or would you pick superhuman strength, right? Like you pull into Walmart and that guy that's parked in 3 spots, you can just pick up that car and put it properly in its spot. You can see the tension that, I experience clearly in my life. Or would you choose invisibility, right? The ability to walk in to any room, any building, anywhere, anytime, and to know everything that's going on, but nobody knows you're there, like a fly on the wall. Well, I can't help you with flight. I can't help you with superhuman strength. I can probably give you a few pro tips on invisibility as a professional introvert. But I probably can't actually help you become invisible. I do want to talk, though, this morning about an underrated but very real superpower that I believe we all have access to. And I believe that when we're intentional about using this superpower, that we position ourselves to transform the world that we live in and the lives of those around us. I want to share this quote from Brennan Manning. He says, "In every encounter, we either give life or drain it, and there is no neutral exchange." This is another one of those quotes that simultaneously serves to encourage and inspire us, and at the same time, it haunts us, right? There's a lot of truth to this idea. I remember many years ago, Heidi, my wife, and I were young parents of young kids. I think maybe we had 3 or 4 kids. So we were a much smaller family then. And we walked into this restaurant, and I don't know if you've ever had this experience, but we walked into a restaurant. We had all these looks from people in the restaurant, and they weren't like looks like welcome. They were like, oh, they're about to ruin our lunch. Right? You ever had that? And before we had even really started to eat, we sat down with our kids, and this lady slips by the table on her way out the restaurant, and she just hands a note to my wife, Heidi. And I remember looking over at her, and she just like tears coming down. And I don't know what you're imagining. But what happened was the lady took a few moments, she wrote a note, and she said, "Good job, Mama. You're doing a great job. Your kids are so well behaved." And I kid you not, Heidi, who has the spiritual gift of purging, who can throw things away that I forgot I even had, she kept that note, she taped that note to the back of her bathroom mirror, and she would read it every morning when she woke up and brushed her teeth, and then she would read it again in the evenings as she was getting ready for bed. And what took a stranger, someone who we had never met before and we have never seen since, what took her only a moment served to encourage a young mom for months afterward. Right? That's the power of encouragement. That's what we're talking about this morning. Unfortunately, I have far too many memories of coming home from a long day of work. I'm feeling exhausted. My kids are excited and anticipating, right? Like the ability to share the great news with me of whatever it was that they did that day. And instead of listening, I brush them off. And I missed the opportunity in front of me to be an encouraging voice in that moment. And so it's this idea that I want to start with. And in a moment, we're gonna look at a passage of scripture in the 3rd chapter of Hebrews. If you want to go there, you can follow along with me on the screen here in a minute too. But before we jump there, I want to kind of set the stage. I want to help you understand the context in which the writer is speaking to the original audience. And so, the verse that we'll zero in on, let me give you a little context. So the author of Hebrews, he's writing to the 2nd generation of the 1st century Christians, right? So 2nd generation, meaning there were those who walked and lived with and experienced the ministry of Jesus firsthand. And then the second generation, right? They weren't there. They didn't see him personally, but they were impacted by those who were, right? And so that's the audience that the writer is writing to. And specifically in Italy and living likely in the city of Rome. Now, what you have to understand about what's going on at that time, the letter of Hebrews was written somewhere between 62, 67 AD, and right in the middle of that time frame, a significant event occurs. And it's still referred to as the Great Fire of Rome. Now, Roman historian Tacitus, he says that Nero, the emperor of Rome at that time, wasn't actually in Rome when the fire broke out. But Nero rushes back to organize relief efforts. And when he does, some pretty powerful voices, politicians, start to question whether it was maybe Nero's disengagement, inattention, irresponsibility that led to the cause of this fire. And so Nero, in order to deflect attention from himself, he blames this dissident group of Jews, otherwise known as the Christians. And he goes on to record how many of these Christians are then arrested and brutally executed. And I'm talking like fed to lions, crucified like Jesus was, literally turned into human torches. There are other historians that say it was this event that ultimately led to the martyrdom of Peter and Paul and Timothy, among others. And so it's with this understanding in mind, right, that we can see how relevant and timely a letter of encouragement might be to this small group of believers. And that's the whole point of the letter of Hebrews, is to encourage them to persevere in their faith as they face unimaginable fear and persecution. So let's go there. Hebrews 3:13. And the writer says, "But encourage one another daily, as long as it's called today, so that none of you may be hardened by sin's deceitfulness." And again, I say this verse it's a powerful reminder for us to encourage, or maybe an even better way of saying that, really the best definition that I've ever heard for the word encourage, is to give courage, right? And so he's saying, give courage to each other daily. And for early Christians, encouragement meant, right, survival. I mean, in the face of just unimaginable fear and ruthless persecution, encouragement was the way they were going to get through that day. Truth is, we have the power to transform the world that we live in and to improve the lives of those around us. But too often, we're so busy making excuses that we miss the opportunity to make a difference. And so I don't want you to miss this. If you get nothing else this morning, I want you to hear this. We can make a difference, or we can make excuses. But we have to pick one. Will we choose to use our words to make a powerful difference in the lives of the people closest to us, or will we make excuses as to why we don't have the time or energy to do that? If I'm honest, I have so many excuses that I've made. Daily, right? I'm presented with the opportunity to encourage my wife, to give life to her soul. And I don't know how many days I've just simply been silent. I'm harsh, I'm short with my words. And like Brennan Manning says, instead of giving life, I drain her of life. Because there is no neutral exchange. I was up here last summer and I told many of you about how I'm a father of 6 kids, because my wife and I clearly get along sometimes. Happy Father's Day, by the way, to all the dads in the room. Of the 6 kids that I'm a dad to, 3 of them are teenagers. Now, you know what's true about teenagers? Lots of things. But one thing that I know that's true about teenagers, or at least the teenagers in my home, is that they come alive around 7, 8 o'clock in the evening. You know what's true about me at 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock in the evening? I'm out. I'm done. I'm toast. I'm ready to crash. And frequently, I am presented with the opportunity to make a difference, to speak life into the lives of my teenagers, and too often, I selfishly choose to make excuses. I can make a difference in the lives of my teenagers, or I can make excuses, and far too often, I just make excuses. I'm tired. I'm going to bed. I got to sleep. And I think if I asked each person individually on both of our campuses, I think we all would say that I want to make a difference. I believe that's true. We all want to make a difference. I also think we all tend to make excuses. And so if it's true that we do have access to this superpower that is encouragement, if we can imagine that, yes, we really can transform the world around us and make the lives of those closest to us better, then why? Why do we keep making excuses? And I think the writer of this passage in Hebrews 3 is onto something when he says, but encourage one another daily as long as it is called today. Because I think too often we live in the past, we beat ourselves up over mistakes that we've made in the past, or we're worried about the future and the impact of our choices today on the future, and we fail to just be in the present. We fail to believe, right, the truth that the past doesn't exist anymore and the future is only a concept. And we can hope for it and we can look forward to it, we can plan for it, but none of us are guaranteed the future. All that we're guaranteed is this moment, right now, in the present. And so I think when the writer of Hebrews says, encourage one another daily as long as today is called today, he's literally encouraging us to seize the moment in front of us, to take advantage of the opportunity in front of us before it gets away from us. And it will get away from us. And when the writer goes on to say, so that none of you will be hardened by sin's deceitfulness, I can't help but to think that, right, with each selfish excuse that I make, it gets just a little bit more comfortable to make excuses. With each opportunity that I am presented with and I choose to pass on, I just assume that there will be more opportunities in the future, right? And then suddenly one day, for all of us, eventually, all of my opportunities will be gone. And that'll be it. And today will no longer be called today for me. It will be yesterday. And I don't want to miss out. I don't want to miss out on the opportunity to transform the world I live in and make a difference in the lives around me. I want to seize the opportunities that I have today to make a difference, and I want to stop making excuses. What about you? I want to leverage the relationship with my kids to point them in the direction of this good and holy and perfect Father, despite, right, the flaws and the weaknesses and the shortcomings of their earthly father. I want to inspire the people that I have the privilege to lead and serve with in ministry and in the workplace. I want to bring life even to the people in our community that I don't know, that I just run into and I interact with in the coffee shop, in the grocery store, in the movie theater. More importantly, maybe, I want my wife to know that I cherish her, that I love her, that I appreciate her, that I'm better because of her, because of the forgiveness and the grace and the compassion that she's extended to me over the 22 years that we've been married. And I think that there are some practical steps that we can take together to start moving toward making a difference and away from making excuses. And first, I'll say this. It's Father's Day, right? And so I want to challenge the dads in the room. So dads, I want you to listen up. Whether you're 28 or 82, this is for you. Because Dad, there's a good chance that you never heard the words come out of your father's mouth. I'm sorry. Will you please forgive me? It takes a lot of humility to say that to our kids, doesn't it? But dads, you have an incredible amount of power and influence to change the world you live in at home, to change the lives of the people you love the most and are loved by the most. And dads, yesterday's gone and you're not guaranteed tomorrow. Today is the day that your kids need to hear you say, I'm sorry. Will you please forgive me? We can make a difference, or we can make excuses. We can change the world, or we can say, but it's Father's Day. And you're right, it's Father's Day. So let's make this Father's Day the day our kids never forget, because let this be the day that their father changed their world by modeling humility and leadership and encouragement in the lives around us. Now, with that said, the rest of you probably thought you were going to get a pass. No, nobody gets a pass today. This one, I think we all probably can apply here. Here's another step we can take toward making a difference and away from making excuses. We can all apply a filter to the words that come out of our mouths with just 3 simple questions. Here they are. 3 questions to filter our words. 1, is it true? 2, is it kind? And 3, is it helpful? Jesus said he's the way, he's the truth, he's the life. Jesus spoke truth and Jesus was kind. Jesus served with humility, putting the needs of others ahead of himself. And in Jesus, there is kindness and there is truth. And I think for the rest of us, we tend to lean in one direction or the other. Some of us lean toward truth. And like Tim mentioned last week, we can't wait for the opportunity to speak truth, to tell people what we think, right? And for many of the truth tellers in the room, we are rarely accused of being too kind, right? When's the last time that happened? It's not very difficult to identify a truth teller. In fact, the truth tellers in our lives, and again, this is me, I'm one of them, guilty. We say things like, well, we're not really words of affirmation people. That's one excuse you'll hear truth tellers make. Oftentimes truth tellers, though, they're not as easily or as harshly, maybe deeply impacted by harsh words. And so sometimes you can just identify us by how easily we speak directly to others or even receive words from others. Show of hands, how many truth tellers do we have in the room? Normally the truth tellers tell the truth, and they're pretty honest. They raise those hands. They're usually not shy about letting you know they're truth tellers. For others in the room, those of us who lean toward grace, compassion, kindness, mercy, for these people, it's often more difficult to speak truth because, right, genuinely don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. How many people lean toward kindness in the room? Again, a handful. It's probably better if I ask the truth tellers to just point to the kind ones in the room. And I've noticed in most married couples, right, we tend to have a truth teller, and then we have the kind and the compassionate one. My wife is very kind. Let me speak to the truth tellers for a minute. But kind people, don't get too comfortable, because I'm coming for you next. Truth tellers, if you lean toward truth, I don't miss this. Words of affirmation, they may take more time, more intentionality, more thought and consideration, but here's what you need to understand, because truth tellers, you have a superpower. When you slow down and you take the time to deliver your words with kindness and compassion and encouragement, they are more powerful than you could ever dream or imagine. You will leave people speechless. The people around you, like, they're not surprised by your ability to speak truth, but when you speak truth with kindness, they're blown away. And so for those that lean toward truth, I just want to encourage you, leverage the truth you possess by speaking it with kindness. Leverage the truth you possess. And for the rest of you, the kind ones, the compassionate and the merciful ones, the positive, upbeat optimists in the room, there's a truth that you need to embrace. And it's this: your kindness and your grace and your mercy, it has earned you the right in the relationships you have to speak truth with power and credibility. For those of you who lean toward kindness, leverage your kindness by embracing the courage to speak the truth. And you'll be amazed at how well people receive it from you, because you're anticipating they're just going to sever relationship, and then you choose courage. And because of the relational equity that you have earned, you're surprised by how grateful they are that you would be willing to choose courage on their behalf. So, is it true? Is it kind? And is it helpful? Because I can say something that's true and kind, right? Like the sunset was amazing last night. There's nothing unkind about that, right? Like it could very well be true, but what does it change, right? What is the impact of that? Probably not much. If we want to make a difference, we still need to ensure that it's helpful. And I think perhaps the best gauge of whether it's helpful is simply asking the question, how will my words leave other people closer to Jesus after our conversation? When we speak words that are true and kind and helpful, we start to make a difference in the world that we live in and in the lives of those around us, because we are, right, the hands and the feet and the voice of Jesus in the lives of those around us. Imagine with me for a moment. Imagine a future where our world is made up of people who all intentionally are working to make a difference in the lives of those around us. How might we change our community if everyone embraced the truth of encouragement, that we all have this untapped superpower to make a difference in the world? An encouraging word from a teacher to a student might forever change that student's academic trajectory, while an encouraging word from a leader to a follower may help that person realize a potential they never dreamed was possible. An encouraging word from a spouse might save a marriage. I mean, think about the potential transformation that could take place in our church and in our families, in our workplaces, if we just committed to stop making excuses and start making a difference through our words and our actions and our presence. I want to close this morning by just practicing what I've been preaching. I want to challenge with truth and grace and gentleness, and I want to take a moment to do that, because again, I think, right, when I think about encouragement and how it's about seizing today, seizing this moment in front of us, seizing the opportunity that we find in the present. I don't know exactly what your opportunities look like today, but I have this unique opportunity in this moment to maybe speak specifically to what I know generally. So some of you might have grown up with a similar experience to me. Maybe you just didn't hear a lot of encouraging words, and so you don't really know what to even do with them. You get a little uncomfortable and awkward. And listen, let me help you. It doesn't have to be that way. You can just say, thank you. That's it. Right? Just because you had one experience in the past doesn't mean that has to be true today. And I want to remind those dads I spoke to earlier. Again, I know it's unlikely that you ever heard your dad say, I'm sorry, will you forgive me? Maybe not one day in your life did you ever hear those words. I get it. So let's change the world. Right? Let's change the reality. And let's start with our kids. Somebody else's choices yesterday don't have to determine my decisions today. We aren't guaranteed tomorrow, though, so let's make a difference today. Guys, seize the moments. Let your sons, let your daughters hear the words you never heard. I'm sorry. Will you please forgive me? If for many of you, and again, I don't know what your next step is, but I know that likely all of you have a next step, and you probably actually know what it is because you're squirming in your seat right now. And for some of you, it's maybe just to simply acknowledge that you've been a bit of a bulldozer with your words, that you've hurt some people. And so maybe it is, right? Like someone close to you needs to hear you ask for their forgiveness. For others in the room, there's someone that you know, and they need encouragement, and you know that God has placed them in front of you. He has put you in relationship with them, and it's time to call them. It's time to arrange to sit down with them over coffee. It might even just be simply shooting a text with powerful words that bring life. Most powerful and impactful words in my life, aside from the Word of God, I've heard these words spoken by the people that are closest to me. Maybe you've heard words like these. When my wife says, "You're a great leader, Joe. I love and I appreciate you." When father and brother figures in my life say, "You are uniquely gifted, Joe, for the challenge that God has put in front of you, and you've been chosen by Him for this ministry." When my kids say, "I couldn't ask for a better dad." The most powerful words that have breathed life into me were spoken by people who made the conscious decision to make a difference when they could have just as easily made excuses. So who's God calling you to encourage today? I want to ask you to just stand with me as we close this morning. If you're able, you can stand with me now. And I want to close with a simple word of encouragement. And my hope is that if you hear it and you let it seep into your heart and shape your mind, that maybe it will pour out of you in a way that makes a difference in the world around you and in the lives of those that are closest to you. So I want you to hear these words. You're a child of the Most High God who loves you, who forgives you, who is proud of you. And He has amazing plans for your life, regardless of where you've been and what you've done or what you haven't done. He has created you to be bold, to be courageous, to be resilient, because the same Spirit that has raised Jesus Christ from the dead lives in you or is waiting for you to make the decision to follow Him. And so live today with power and purpose and passion, and speak life into those around you, because everyone benefits from it. You were created in God's image to reflect His glory, and you have the power to make a difference and to transform the world and the lives around you. So let's stop making excuses and let's go make a difference today. Have a great week.